Honeybees. They're hardworking, they're buzzy, they're cute, and they can be deadly. Not only to those unlucky enough to be allergic to their stings. These little creatures gave us the concept of hive mentality, and for good reason at that. Bees protect their own, and when they feel danger lurking, they attack. In this video, we're telling the chilling story of Larry Goodwin, a 62-year-old man who was killed by a huge swarm of Africanized bees, aka Killerbees. With over 3,000 stings all over his body, the Texas man never stood a chance. It was a beautiful, sunny Saturday on the 1st of June 2013. Larry Goodwin was hard at work. A few days before Goodwin was driving his tractor and shredding his pasture, when he was approached by one of his neighbors, a man called John Puckett. Puckett wanted to clear off his property, and he needed to hire someone to help. And who better than Larry Goodwin, who not only had a tractor, but was known for lending a help to whoever asked. The two men had struck a deal, and Goodwin was now taking care of his part, working on his neighbor's land. At 62 years old, Larry Goodwin had all the reason in the world to be happy and grateful. He had just celebrated his birthday the day before, on Friday, surrounded by his numerous, loving family. Goodwin had 9 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. They were the light of his life, the reason he woke up in the morning, and everybody loved him back, not only his family, but his larger community too. There was no one in the city of Moody, Texas, about 26 miles south of Waco, that had anything bad to say about the man. Before getting to work, Goodwin was assured that the land was clear, and there were no dangerous animals who could potentially harm. The man entered his tractor and got down to business under the hot Texas sun. He was almost finished when he spotted a pile of wood, which included what looked like an old chicken coop. Puckett had told him about the old chicken coop. It was to be cleared off the property too. Larry Goodwin drove his tractor closer. He then lifted up the entire coop. But as he did so, something totally unexpected happened. It was a terrifying sight, one most of us have only seen in movies or perhaps cartoons. Unbeknownst to Larry Goodwin, there was a huge hive living inside the coop. Lifting the coop was essentially lifting and disturbing the tens of thousands of bees. The angry insects came out swarming out of there, ready to attack. Larry Goodwin was trapped on his tractor, and he was even more unlucky than he might have thought. Those were not usual bees. Instead, Goodwin was attacked by Africanized honeybees, more commonly known as killer bees. While Africanized honeybees look identical to the more docile European counterparts and require DNA testing to be differentiated, the two species couldn't be more different when it comes to their behavior. According to experts, in a hive of your usual European honeybees, only about 10% will attack if they feel the hive is threatened. But when it comes to Africanized honeybees, they're all in. The entire hive will attack and won't stop until the threat is gone. They are relentless and dangerous. Goodwin could see no way out. In an instant, thousands of furious bees swarmed them. He could feel them all over his body, stinging him over and over again. The pain was unimaginable. The 62-year-old somehow managed to get out of his tractor. He tried his best to get the bees off his body. Goodwin ran about 50 yards towards his neighbor's house. He almost managed to grab a gardening hose. He most likely wanted to try and wash the bees off his body. But it was no use. His body hit the ground before he could turn on the water. His body was disfigured, covered in thousands and thousands of stings. The bees didn't leave, even with Goodwin no longer a threat. Goodwin's screams alerted John Puckett's wife and daughter. The two women rushed out of the house and tried to help the man. The older woman was allergic to bees. Still, she and her daughter couldn't give up without helping the man. They tried their best, administering CPR as bees stung them. Meanwhile, Goodwin's daughters and one of his grandchildren also rushed to help the man. Together, they took turns to administer CPR. Someone called 911 and the paramedics arrived quite shortly. But, to the family's surprise, the paramedics were reluctant to enter the property and administer first aid to Larry Goodwin. They said it was too dangerous for them. Some of the bees were still around, stinging the group of people working to save Goodwin's life. Goodwin's daughters and his grandchild managed to drag the man from where he lay unconscious. That's when the paramedics finally moved. They rushed to help the family carry Larry Goodwin. They administered CPR for about 15 minutes before another ambulance crew arrived, but all the CPR in the world couldn't bring the man back. Larry Goodwin was dead. He had over 3,000 bee stings and his body was purple. As for John Puckett's wife, who had rushed to help Goodwin and proved to be allergic to bees, she was rushed out of the hospital. Goodwin's family had a hard time processing his death. He was just a super guy. We had been married for 45 years and I can say he's a super guy, said Shirley Goodwin, the man's wife. Goodwin's manner of death was unusual. When it comes to bee stings, most human casualties or serious injuries happen to people who are allergic to bee venom, the poison that makes stings painful for everyone. A small number of people who are stung by bees develop anaphylaxis with symptoms such as skin reactions, difficulty breathing, swelling of the tongue and throat, a weak pulse, nausea, vomiting, dizziness, fainting, or loss of consciousness. Larry Goodwin wasn't allergic, but he still couldn't likely survive the attack. 10 stings per pound of body weight are lethal, so a 150-pound individual would need to be stung around 1,500 times to be killed, according to specialists. With 3,000 bee stings on his body, Larry Goodwin stood no chance. Alan Miller, owner of Bees Be Gone, was later called to remove the insects. What he found was immensely worrying. There were 22 hives on the property with over 40,000 bees living inside them. "You can't believe how bad they are. They make me want to get out of this business," Miller said. Alan Miller also said he'd been seeing a lot more killer bees. It is believed that Africanized honeybees have first entered Texas sometime in the early 90s and have since spread to at least 10 other states. According to Alan Miller, killer bees are scarily resourceful. They can crawl even in people's gloves, pants, and boots. Here are some things you should do in order to avoid bee swarm attacks. Never go near or disrupt bee nests. If you see bees entering or exiting rock fissures, holes in the ground, or tree hollows, it's better to assume that there is a nest there and quickly leave the area. Keep an eye out for bee behavior. Bees that fly into you or begin to swarm around you are most likely trying to warn you off. Remember, never ever swat at the bees, simply walk away. If you unintentionally disturb a nest, flee the area immediately. Find an enclosed refuge, such as a car, or run until the bees stop pursuing you. You may need to run a quarter mile or more away from the site of the attack. If you can do so without affecting your vision, cover your face with whatever you have available. Never jump into a body of water to get away from bees. They'll wait for you to emerge. Bees have been known to wait for hours, hovering above the water.